Good afternoon, preppers. Welcome to Goshen Prep, and thanks for joining us. I hate to say this, but I got to be the first to admit it, that the days of the United States reigning in the top of the economic world order are finished. We have a new world order emerging right in front of us as we speak. You got to see what's happening. EU leaders beat a path to Xi's door seeking China's help. Leaders and diplomats from Europe have worn a path to Beijing since Chinese leader Xi Jinping was anointed president for a third time. In the week since he actually won a third 5-year term as president, well, how well did he win? It's hard to say. Setting him onto a course to remain in power for life, leaders and diplomats from around the world have beaten a path to his door. And since so many sanctions have been placed on Russia, and Russia wants to continue to sell its oil, it switched to China, which is fueling, literally, their growing economy. And because of this, they've actually decided to go ahead and oust the American dollar and instead actually start using the Chinese money, the Chinese economy as the basis. That's the first step. That's what we're seeing. And every time we see a world order change into a new world order, that's the first step we always see too. The economic areas start changing, favoring the new nation. Now, even more so, we're seeing this. It's not simply just communist or socialist countries or countries part of BRICS who are now falling into China. Europe is actually doing the same thing too. This is frightening. Over the past 2 decades, the Chinese government has often used its economic heft to pry France, Germany, and other allies away from the United States on issues ranging from military security and trade to human rights in Taiwan. Whereas there's been a serious deviation in the United States' understanding position about China, treating China as a primary opponent and the biggest geopolitical challenge. And they are correct, because as we see China as being a threat, not just to Taiwan, but also to the United States. I actually did a video earlier about how if we actually see an invasion of Taiwan, we're going to start seeing attacks on U.S. mainland soil. People don't think this is coming. They don't want it. I'm not saying we'll necessarily have Chinese boots on the ground, although I'm not discounting that too. But we are certainly seeing cyber warfare increasing during that time. And more balloons full of, well, who knows what, EMPs? It's difficult to say. But China is expanding, whereas the United States, we seem to be shriveling up. And now we're seeing a lot of the allies of the United States switching over to China. Being a friend doesn't mean that you have to be a vassal. Talking about America, just because we're allies, doesn't mean that we no longer have the right to think for ourselves. So in essence, we're seeing a lot of the United States allies basically saying we've had enough, on the most part, with a lot of things that's happening in the United States. I'll be honest with you, this is a long time coming. As the United States has actually been the world leader for the past 70 years, not only have we push out money and military bases around the world, but also our agenda as well. And I'm not saying sometimes the agenda and the help isn't actually warranted. We've actually tried to do some good things. But either way, the countries are actually getting sick and tired of what the United States has done and basically look at us as simply just that nosy big brother who basically can go to it and don't even worry about handling us anymore. That's what the stance is happening around the world. And what surprises me, though, as this is happening, as China is growing economically, these countries are letting go of the United States and now grabbing onto China. They're not completely letting go, obviously. They still want to be allies with us, but they simply just don't want to be underneath the domination of what we put across in the United States political pushing that we've been doing for so long. In some ways, I don't blame them. But trying to latch onto China, which really is basically becoming the sworn enemy of the United States, it's putting us in a tight spot. Because think about this, as the United States, if the American dollar has been the dominant currency around the world, and all these other countries are now starting to jump onto China's currency, when are we going to finally give in? When are we going to actually drop our currency too? And when that happens, it's got to happen eventually. Well, I'm not saying we're actually going to have Chinese money here in America, but we'll start really looking at as the dominant currency in China is basically what actually rallies and controls all the markets. We seem to be heading in that path. What do you think about that? I don't like the thoughts of that because that literally takes America out of control as far as being in charge of the economy of the world, which again, I'm not saying we've done the best with this, but it's a scary and tumultuous time. The Brits had to deal with this too. But going from Britain to America, where we actually had both a lot of the same viewpoints in the world, that's one thing. Going from the United States to China, that's a whole different world we're stepping into. But either way, we're heading to a collapse of the American dollar. It's no longer going to reign control over the world. And again, I want to see what you think about that and what that's going to lead to. Thank you for watching.